How can you land the job of your dreams as a software developer? And much more on today's episode of Coffee with Steve. So, today I thought we'd talk about a pretty interesting thing that I get asked all the time. And that is, how can I land that job? What do I need to do in order to buff up my skills? Or what do I need to put on my resume? Or how do I do the technical interview? All sorts of good stuff in that. Because I think a lot of you guys that are out there watching this channel are beginner developers and you're looking for a way to land that job. So I thought I would kind of go through some of the things that I think you guys can do to prep yourselves to not only be better developers, but really land that dream job you're looking for. I broke this down into three things. The first thing is what are you doing in your daily life, or kind of a lifelong thing? What are you doing in your regular everyday life to try to become a better developer? And then I'm going to talk about the resume and what you need to do with your resume in order to give yourself a little extra bit of a leg up when your resume is going to be on a stack. So how are you going to get noticed? And then the third thing we're going to talk about is the interview itself. And hopefully I can break this down into some simple little things that you guys can do in your everyday lives and on your resume, and things to think about when you're in the interview to really kind of nail those things down. So let's first start off with how you can. What are some of the things you can do in your everyday life to try to be a little bit better and get the skills that you need? So the first thing is you need to be a lifelong learner. You need to take this seriously from every single day. Obviously, you can have room for excitement and fun, but you gotta have this desire to be a developer, and it's a lifelong desire. So make sure that you're always trying to learn. You're always trying to find the next skill to learn, the next skill to pick up, or maybe the deeper understanding or the advanced level of understanding of those things that you find interesting, right? Or the things that businesses are looking for skill-wise. The second thing is you want to make sure that you are, as much as you can, try to contribute to projects that are visible, right? So either build your own project or find some open source projects and contribute, okay? You got to get your code out there. You got to get your name out there. You've got to have some sort of body of evidence of what you can do. And this is much more important than just listing off. Well, I shouldn't say this is more important, but this is very important to do just as much as listing those skills, right? Or having those skills. You've got to be able to demonstrate them. So you want to be building those skills even in your downtime, right? Not just while you're on the clock, not just while you're working, or not just while you think about it. You've really got to try to envelop yourself in all of those skills that you know you're going to need in order to land that job. So look at what the skills are that are in demand. So one of the things that I used to do regularly was I would look at the job postings and see what are the things that they're looking for. Is it C#? Is it PHP? Is it Python? Is it Ruby? Is it whatever the language is? Try to make sure that I go learn that language and then use those skills to build something, right? Do something to not only demonstrate to the potential employer what I'm capable of doing, but also to help solidify my knowledge, because there's nothing like hands-on experience, okay? We call it kinesthetic learning, where you're actually doing something, okay? So you've got to actually do it. You've got to build it. You've got to create things, and then you can use those things that you create to demonstrate to a potential employer what you're capable of doing. Next, take advantage of every learning opportunity you've got. This is kind of one of those things that's really sometimes harder than it sounds, but it's really, really important. You've got to put in your time, and sometimes that's just a matter of the opportunity is what you're really there for, is why you are doing something. And it may not be because you get paid. It may not be because, you even like it. It's just, this is something that's going to help me boost my career. And I leveraged several jobs in my past to do exactly that. And I've gone through in my one of my earlier coffees with Steve. I talked about this, right? Speaking of coffee, we should probably take a sip, right? All right. So, even if you, and this is sometimes the advice that you won't hear, is always make sure you're getting what you're worth, right? You hear that a lot, and I kind of take a little bit of a counter position to that. And then I think that it's really important to build your skills first, and then you can start to ask what you're worth, right? Then you can start to really look at the different opportunities and try to decide if the one that you're currently in is the best one. And that's another thing that I didn't actually put down here on my list, but while you're working is really the best time to be looking for a job. Because your opportunities are much better that way, and you can be more discerning about the job that you're going to take. Right? If you already have a job, you're not going to be desperate to take the next thing that comes along. Instead, you're going to take the time to figure out, is this really a job that I want? And you can kind of compare against the current job you have. Right? You can say, yes, that sounds great, but I'm pretty solid where I am, and they have these extra skills I don't think I would necessarily match up to, and maybe after 3 months I might not last there, so I'm not going to really try that just yet. But then sometimes there's just an amazing offer that comes down the pipe that you're like, I'm out of here. I gotta go. And doing those prospective job hunts while you're still currently employed is really, really important. It also helps you understand your value, right? It helps you understand what are you worth? What are the things that you know that are valuable skills in the work industry right now? Now, just to be absolutely clear, just in case my employer is watching, I love my job, and I gotta be honest, I am not looking at all. It's probably against my own better judgment. I am really not looking. I love what I'm doing here at WazU, and I love what I'm doing here on the Programming Made Easy channel. I have no desire to leave. I love this too much. And that's what I hope everybody out there finds. I hope that you guys find that job that you love so intensely and so much that you wake up every day and you're excited to get to work. That's what I think we're all really, really hoping for. Okay, next thing is so you need to practice your skills, right? You got to practice your skills. I'm going to post up a few links in the description to some really good websites, I think. There's katas, which are little programming exercises, little things that you can do to try to keep your skills fresh and think of problem solving, right? Because that's what we really are as software engineers and developers. We're problem solvers. So what I'm going to suggest here is a few websites that are going to help you practice those skills. One of them is called CodeKata, so that's CodeKata.com. And they have a excuse me, they have a whole list of katas that you can practice and do. And one of the other things that you can do is even do the same one over and over again, but try to find like a faster, cleaner way of doing it, right? Or take the code that you wrote for the kata and do like a second pass and refactor it and see if you can do it in a faster way or smaller way. And you can really kind of build upon that and then publish them, put them out there on GitHub, put them out there on Bitbucket or wherever it is that you're posting your code at, but do it. Make sure that it is a visible product that other people can see. And it's going to help hopefully generate some buzz around your name. Now, as far as the technical interviews go, almost every one of our jobs, 99% of the jobs that you're going to get in this industry are going to require some sort of technical interview where they're going to ask you to possibly whiteboard something. And, what's really annoying to me is a lot of the times these are like, how do you do a bubble sort? Or they give you some ridiculous problem that you're like, boy, that's really, really complicated. I don't really think of that every day. That's not exactly something that I would typically try to solve. Which really bothers me because the fact is like those type of challenges that you get asked aren't things that they actually even do. So typically when I would do a technical interview, I would be more or less asking questions about like their expertise on certain areas or things that they know or ask for for them to demonstrate some knowledge in some way. But I don't like the idea of like this really difficult, complex question that has to be solved through some ridiculous algorithm that has to be walked through and stuff. Like that's really a waste of everybody's time, in my opinion. Unless you're a data scientist who needs to figure out these algorithms and how to do the math on these things, or unless you're a computer scientist and you're working at the low level problem solving, or you're building a calculator or something. Like if it's a real technical task that you are really doing every day, then that makes sense from an employer perspective. But man, I think a lot of these technical interviews are just a waste of time. That being said, you're still going to encounter them, right? You're still going to have these ridiculous challenges that you're like, God, I've been coding for 20 some odd years and I never had to do anything like that in any of my work, right? But they still get asked. So a couple of pages that I really would recommend. The first one is called Geeks for Geeks. Okay, Geeks for Geeks. So it's GeeksforGeeks.org. So that's geeksforgeeks.org. And they have some great stuff up on there. They have kind of like some katas and stuff, but also like how to nail some of the interview questions and things. Like more technical, a little bit more technical katas, right? Technical questions to answer above what the codekata.com website does. And then the last thing that I'm going to do is there's a really, really cool website. I discovered it not long ago called interviewing.io. So interviewing.io. You guys really should check this out. This is like a full simulation of being interviewed with feedback and everything, and it's completely free. It is amazing. This is exactly the type of thing that we in the industry need, are these kind of interviewing things. So interviewing.io, I definitely highly recommend that you go check it out. Okay, so post your code, start your own project or work on someone else's project, and make sure that it gets updated, right? So if you're working on your own project, make sure that you are consistently doing updates and pushing them out to GitHub regularly. Okay, the consistency and there's a graph that anybody can see on your GitHub profile of like how many commits you do. And it lights up green or darker green the more commits that you do. So it's pretty easy. You see like this nice visual representation of how active, how busy this person actually is to do any sort of development. You've got to be consistent with that. You've got to keep pushing that stuff out. You got to keep working on it, because one of the first things that's going to happen is that potential employer, when they go look at your GitHub profile, they're going to see that chart. And if it's like almost completely white, they're going to go, well, this person doesn't really code much at all. So you got to try to make it light up green. You got to really, really work at it. And not only that, but it helps you continuously refine your skills. It gives you something to continuously work on and practice. And sometimes it's, build up, especially if you're doing like microservices or something. This is really good because you can do those different services in different languages, right? You can do one in Python, you can do one in JavaScript, you can do one in C#, you can do one in Java, you can do one in Ruby. Like you could just keep going through all these different frameworks and just try to do things in a different way or use a different language and build these things. And then you can build up this nice resume essentially online that's your code, your work that you can demonstrate and point to and say, you want to know that I know how to do some Golang? Well, there's a project that I wrote in Golang. So, okay, another thing, and this cannot be overstated. You have to network. You have to find people in your industry. The best way to find a job with relative ease is to know somebody in the industry, right? You know somebody and you get to know them really well. You start talking about the different technology and things that you're interested in. And based upon that, you develop a partnership or friendship. And then they're like, hey, you can go to them and say, hey, I'm looking for work. Have you got anything? And I've landed several jobs that way. I've landed a lot of jobs that were just like, I knew somebody or they knew me and they were like, hey, yeah, there's some work over here that I know needs to be done and you're just the right guy for it. So All right. Last thing, write articles, and this is the last thing for things that you can do, in your daily life. Write articles, make videos, and develop a profile, right? So, like, not only are you pushing code to GitHub, but you should be trying to build some sort of like online presence. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's YouTube videos, maybe it's a blog, or maybe you're going to the various technical websites and posting up things like Free Coder Camp. You can sometimes deploy things up there. You can maybe make up your own Udemy series, right? It may be low level. You may be thinking, oh, I'm not good enough to know how to do one of these things, but you'd be surprised. A lot of learning that you can do can be done by trying to educate others. Sometimes it helps to solidify that knowledge. When you can take a concept and you can reiterate it to someone else, that really adds an extra depth of knowledge to or an understanding of what it is that you're talking about. So definitely do that. All right, a quick little break here. I first of all want to thank all of my members that have signed up. It's $5 a month. You guys get 10% off all the swag. So like my coffee cup here, you guys can see I'm sporting a new t-shirt here. It's got my code. It says if prog equals easy, else or return 0, else go to Programming Made Easy. So you guys can get one of these shirts too. I think it's pretty cool. I'm glad mine came in. And of course I got these coffee mugs, right? Which has the same code on it. And then on the back side, it says Programming Made Easy. So you guys get 10% off in my Teespring store if you are a member. There's a little promo code that you guys get when you sign up. Also, you guys have direct access to me, right? You've got a form that you guys can fill out and you can ask me questions directly. So if you're having a problem with your application, you're having a problem with your database, whatever, and you want to ask me directly, all you have to do is sign up. You'll get a link to go to that form and you can go ahead and fill that out. Send me a screenshot, send me your database, or send me your code, whatever. And I'll be able to go ahead and answer you more directly, right? We can have a conversation about it rather than these comments in the YouTube, which, I mean, they're okay to have comments in YouTube, but I find that quite commonly somebody will ask me a question in YouTube comments and it's like, I can't answer that. I need way more information than you're providing. And so this kind of helps open up that dialogue that I can have an actual back and forth. It also helps me filter and kind of reduce the amount of time that I spend to those folks who are really dedicated to like finding the answers and dedicated to me, because I want to help everybody, but also at the time I have to kind of filter down exactly where I'm spending my time. All right, I got a full-time job and a family and a programming channel. My time is pretty valuable, so I got to make sure I'm spending it on people who are really dedicated. So you got that. So you got the 10% off. You got the link directly to me. Every once in a while, I do these special Q&As with just members only. You guys will have access to that. And there was one more thing, but I can't remember it off the top of my head. Maybe somebody can mention that in the YouTube channel. Anyway, all right, I want to get back to the topic. So the next thing is your resume. And this is a little bit shorter. I have a shorter list of things to go through. But one of the really important things to do is collect letters of recommendation. Not just get a recommendation, or not just have someone down as a reference, but get an actual letter that says this person is good at what they do. And also you can take like LinkedIn profile stuff. Sometimes you can take those LinkedIn recommendations because somebody will write one up for you, and you could just take those and print those out and just be like, here's my recommendations. That's sometimes a very easy way for somebody to achieve that. But really, get those letters of recommendation, because if you can do that, you add a little extra bit of clout. You add something extra that not everybody else is coming to them with, right? A lot of people are going to be dropping these resumes on they're going to get a stack of resumes. They're going to, or I should stack like this, like we physically do them anymore. But no, they're going to get like an inbox full of resumes that they're going to be combing through. You got to figure out a way to make yours fairly unique. And if you can say like, here's, 2 or 3 letters of recommendation on top of my great resume, you're going to start to get a little bit of more attention. I would be careful with things. I've seen some people do this where they use like color backgrounds for their resume, and it can kind of help you get noticed. I know it's even sometimes something that's recommended, but I know that quite often it was just kind of annoying, especially maybe it was just depending upon the color, but I know a lot of colors just really were like, oh my God, I can't look at that. I want somebody that's going to be professional, but also sometimes it's not too bad to add a little bit of humor to it too. So if you want to like describe your skills in kind of a jestful way, or talk about, you got to be careful here, okay, in what I'm saying in this particular case. But sometimes a little something extra. You want your resume to be unique and resonate in a different way. That when somebody's reading it, it's not going to look just like everybody else's. We're always trying to be professional in what we do, but you've got to do something that makes your resume stand out. So maybe a little bit of humor. One thing that I saw that was really, really unique was somebody actually did like a web page for their resume. Just did a web page. Their resume was looking like a regular web page, and I thought that was great. Like they had tabs and all sorts of stuff, and that was amazing. And then it was like, learn more, go to this link, and this is like his actual resume. That was different. That was unique. It got me noticed. It got me looking at it. And unfortunately, the guy didn't have the skills that I wanted for that position. But it was definitely something that caught my eye. It was out of the norm. So think about that. Think about ways to make your resume look unique. The other thing is emphasize skills, and skills first. Like in every one of my resumes that I wrote, the first thing that I put up there was my skills. These are the things that I know how to do, okay? And understand that these people that are doing the hiring, the HR managers and stuff, they're looking for this set of skills that they're looking for the job position. And if the first thing that your resume says is that list of skills, you're just going to go into the, okay, call back later pile. If you are putting your skills somewhere towards the middle or somewhere towards the end, that's wasting their time. Okay, and they don't like having their time wasted. They've got to go through a lot of resumes and look and look and look. So what they've got to do is they've got to try to make a very quick assessment. And if your skills are somewhere towards the middle or towards the bottom, they're going to have to look through all this stuff and try to figure out, okay, are they mentioning all of their skills as their job history? Are they mentioning all their skills as part of their GitHub repositories? What is it exactly that's going to catch their eye? Needs to be those skills right up front. Like they just need to be prominent, first thing that they see. And then from there, list out, okay, here's my education, here's how I got to know these things, here's my work history, maybe references and things like that afterwards. But make sure that first thing that they see is the skills. I can't emphasize that enough. Also, any certifications, right? So along with those skills, also list out any certifications you have to kind of prove those skills. List any side projects and technologies that you've done, right? So, if you have like some sort of side project, like I'm building a stock market application, or I'm building some sort of new networking program, whatever those things are, just, you can mention those things. You definitely want to make sure that they know that you are actively programming. Okay, now, the last thing that we're going to talk about is the interview itself. And this is probably like the most important advice I can give you, aside from, I think, the lifetime learning. So, the one thing I can't say that I've always been successful in an interview, but I'm really good in an interview. And I'll tell you why. I make it my intention that the person doing the interviewing is who's talking the most in the interview. I want to make sure they are telling me what's going on more than I'm telling them. Okay, and this is a very difficult thing to mentally prepare yourself for, and to really consistently push yourself to do while you're doing it. Because you can think, I'm doing this wrong, and I'm supposed to be answering these questions in such a way that I'm making myself look better and better and better. Like, a lot of people approach an interview trying to prove that they know these things and that they are a really good person, and they're trying to elevate themselves, not to be egotistical, but just they have to win, right? You have to build yourself up and become the best candidate. And that's, unfortunately, I think that's the wrong approach. And I've been pretty successful in my interviews because I take the approach of, I'm here to interview them. They're not here to interview me. I'm here to interview them. I want to make them talk. I want to get them talking about What are the things that they're working on in the company? What are some of the technologies that they're using? What are some of the main problems that the company is currently encountering? And how do they see me fitting into that kind of thing? Now, that last question is a bit of a trick, okay? The other thing that you got to start trying to do is get them thinking. While you're having this conversation, get them thinking about you doing the job. Okay? It's like planting a little seed of in their mind of you doing that job. What would you be like doing that job? You've got to start getting them picturing it. So you start asking them questions like that too, right? Like, so what kind of things do you want me to do for you guys? Like, what are some of the things that you would like, in my position, what exactly do you think my daily routine would be, right? Get them thinking about like, what, if he was working there, what would he be doing? Okay. And that just starts to add this little extra bit of imagination, and it will become important because later on when they try to recall things, this is what's really important about personal communication is people typically remember feelings. Okay, they remember feelings more than they remember the technical details. So if you are going into an interview and your goal is to become really good friends with this person that you just met, you're probably going to do a really good job. And the best way that you can become friends with somebody is ask them about themselves, right? People love talking about themselves. I love talking about myself. You love talking about yourself. You love talking about what you're working on, what you're doing. So I'm going to ask you, what are you doing? What are you working on? What are the things that are interesting to you? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite TV show, right? What's your favorite pop hit of the day? I don't know. You got to get them talking about themselves and trying to emphasize, hey, I like you. I want to know more about you. I want to know more about the company. What do you do for the company? Are you like a manager in the company? Anyway, so trying to turn it on them, asking them questions, get them talking. They may be trying to interview you and get to know you more, but honestly, if you want to leave that good, long-lasting impression, it's about making them feel good about you. Okay, making them feel like you cared about them, you were interested in them, and then that little bit of like get them thinking about you working side by side with them. What would that be like? What are the things that they do? And if their impression of you is good at that point, they're gonna like really start to be, oh yeah, that person was really, really good in the interview. I don't remember half the questions that he or she answered, but I really liked them. I thought that they were a great interview. So, okay. So always try to change the topic back to them as much as you can. Look at them squarely. Like you don't want to get fidgety, right? You know, like, oh my God, right? This is going to do really poorly in an interview, or tapping your fingers, looking around like this. This is going to do really, really bad in an interview. You gotta look them square in the eye, just like I'm looking at you guys right now, which is really just my camera, but look at them square in the eye and answer their questions. Right? You don't want to be creepy, like, right? You don't want to be creepy, but you've got to be staring them face to face, right? You got to be answering the questions directly and honestly. And that's the other thing. The direct and honest path is not always the easiest thing for some people. If they ask you about something that you don't know, this is always kind of the tricky thing, right? Like they're asking you this question about some sort of technology or technical question, and you don't know the answer to it. And 9 times out of 10, what would happen in this situation when I was doing interviews is they would go, oh, that's a great question. Let me go ahead and write this down. Now let me save this for later and I'll go look it up. Okay. I understand where that motivation comes from. It's a good one. Okay. I respect and honor that choice of, I don't know, I'm going to research it later. And that may come off as a perfectly good answer. But to me, it was a bit annoying. It was like, okay, I get that you don't know it. I get that you don't have the answer and you want to look it up later. But it's not really going to impress me. Okay? That's not going to impress me. And this goes back to my first rule. Make it about them. Right? So, boy, I don't know. What do you guys use it for? Like, what is that? So, is that something you guys use all the time? Have you like had a lot of experience doing something with that? See how I change it. Again, redirect it back to them, redirect it back to the interviewer, get them talking about it. And now I don't have to look it up because they're about to tell me. And let me tell you, if this is, especially if this is like a topic that the person doing the interviewing is really, really into, they're very, very interested in. Sometimes that's the reason why they're asking, is because they want to find out, are you as excited about this stuff as I am? Okay, and if you don't know it, okay, if you as the interviewer, or interviewee, I should say, don't know what that technology is, it's going to be a bit of a letdown. But if you can sound just as excited to learn about it as they are to tell you about it, bam, there you go, right? That's what you can do. You don't have to know everything. We understand in this industry that you're not going to know everything. It's just a simple matter of fact. But the way that you respond to not knowing something is really, really important. And a lot of these people that are giving advice about how to get a job, they'll tell you, if you don't know the answer to something, say that you'll write it down and you'll research it later, right? I understand that advice. It's not terrible, but I honestly think like you have the perfect opportunity to ask the person in front of you what that thing is. They obviously know and you don't. So ask them, right? And this is how we do our jobs on a daily basis, is it not? We go around and we start talking to our friends. We talk to our buddies. We discuss these things regularly. And we're always excited to share something new with the people that we're working with. Like, hey, there was this cool thing that I saw. Hey, have you heard about Lambda expressions? Did you know JavaScript has got arrow functions now? Classes and, React has hooks now. Like, we're all excited to talk about these things. And 9 times out of 10, like the person we're talking to doesn't have a clue what we're talking about. But we're all excited to share that information. If you can do that in an interview, again, it goes back to endearing yourself to the person that is doing the interviewing. So it's really important to refocus that attention back to them. You talk to me about it. You tell me what that is. Okay? All right. Be unique. Don't try to answer the way that they expect. So try to be unique in your answers. Don't just, give off the bottom line. Give some animation to your answers, right? Be as animated as I am right now talking. So your goal is to be memorable. Talking about them and being unique will make you memorable. All right. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about here, and then I'm going to open it up to questions here, is these are the kinds of questions that you need to be asking. And again, they redirect. This is your best time, right? When you're asking them questions, this is your best time to really try to get more information from them and endear yourself to them. What technologies are you working with, right? That's a big one. What are the technologies? If you haven't already explored that hopefully you've actually already explored a lot of that during the interview. You got them talking about what they're doing as a company. What kind of challenges does the team face currently, right? What are you guys doing right now? Like, what is the most difficult challenge that is happening right now? What are you guys trying to overcome? Like, what's the biggest part of the project right now? Are you guys working on user interface? Are you having a difficult time with a business rule? Is your database kind of a mess and you guys are trying to figure that out? Are you trying to restructure the database, trying to normalize? Like, what is it that you guys are really encountering as a problem? And sometimes it'll just be like communication, right? And then if you did a good job of communicating, you might be hired right then and there. Okay, now, last thing is, if they use Scrum, it's a good idea. So Scrum is this, if you don't know, Scrum is a way of managing it's a way of managing a team, right? Or working together as a team would probably be better. It's a version of Agile. So if they're doing Scrum or something like Scrum, you can just ask them, what is your sprint time box, right? So you're trying to gauge how often are you guys doing releases of the product. Is it every 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that sort of thing? And that's an important question to ask. Okay, it's an important thing to get them to talk about. Okay, so I'm going to go over to some questions, and boy, I don't really have very many. I have Texture Tree says, "Hi, can you please tell about the future of Flutter?" Honestly, I don't know enough about Flutter. I haven't worked with Flutter, so I really couldn't tell you the answer to that. I apologize there, Texture Tree, but I just don't know. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me at Coffee with Steve. Again, if you guys want to, pick up some swag, get that 10% off. Just got to sign up to be a member. $5. It's a really good deal. I want to thank all of the members that have already signed up. You guys are fantastic. I really appreciate the support, and I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. All right.